Hello, everybody. It is right about 10 o'clock on this Thursday morning. Want to get you the latest in your first Warn 5 forecast. It's been a very impactful morning, not just for some of us, but for a large majority of us, as multiple rounds of heavy rainfall poured across the metro, downtown, and areas surrounding it, all in the pre-sunrise hours of today. Now, we're still seeing some rain out there on radar right now. It's lighter, and the heaviest of rainfall has thankfully moved south of downtown, who got the brunt of that heavy rainfall and storm activity previously this morning, but still going to be actively monitoring the situation since floodwaters are still high, since the soils are still recovering and trying to drain out alongside those small streams and creeks as we continue throughout the rest of your Thursday morning and this first Warn 5 weather day. So that is going to stay intact all day long because of this continued flooding threat and concern. But let's just flip right into graphics so you can start to see what I'm seeing outside on radar right now. And it's largely positive. It's good news that we're starting to find those rainfall rates decreasing, those skies clearing out through the rest of your Thursday morning. So this is over the past hour. We can see a quick splash of rain, very light rain down towards Olathe, well south of 435 there, over now towards Lee Summit and Pleasant Hill, who again have also seen rain so far today. But this green highlighted box is one that we are watching incredibly closely and will continue to be over the next several hours, and honestly next 24 to 48 hours, because that was the area that saw the most rainfall so far today. First of all, previously that had a flash flood warning on it, a flash flood warning. Now, currently this is just a flood warning, which is a step below it, but still this area has seen so much rainfall today that any further rain that we do get could worsen those flood conditions again. So we'll be monitoring to see if that does get at any point upgraded back up to a flash flood warning. I think what it would take to make that happen is an isolated thunderstorm or even just an isolated downpour or two to fixate anywhere within that green square, that green diamond you see on your screen, overtaking downtown and down towards Olathe and Spring Hill, to have this current flood warning be upgraded into a flood advisory, so, or rather flash flood warning. So we can see this flood warning and all the details on it there on your screen. So this goes until 1 p.m. today on your Thursday afternoon. Some counties that it includes, that's Clay, Leavenworth, Platte, Wyandotte, because those were areas that saw so much rain previously. I'm going to show you radar estimated rainfall here in a couple minutes, but I really do want to take a tour around live radar so we can see what the active situation is and where the heaviest of rain is currently falling. But know that even though if you're located in downtown or just in the immediate metro area, even though it's not raining right now, it's not completely ruled out that we couldn't see more rain. And also, just because it stopped raining doesn't mean that those flooding concerns are just done and over with. They're continuing, and it's going to be something that we battle through the rest of your Thursday at the very least. Outside of that decreasing activity there downtown, we can see the heaviest rainfall now falling far south of I-70 there. So that's down 49 as well. Those yellows, those oranges, those red colors embedded in it. That's where that denotes the heaviest of rainfall. So Clinton's still tapping into some lighter rain down towards Mound City, starting to clear out those skies just slightly. Fort Scott, things down there well south of downtown. If we look closer to downtown though, rain isn't completely over with. Now, I'm not fully convinced that all those little speckles you see there are not, I'm not fully convinced that those speckles you see there are reaching the ground. Meteorologist Mike Nico mentioned to me earlier on his way in that he was locked under some of what our radar is showing as lighter rainfall and that he wasn't finding rain. So that's just something to take note of, is that the radar could be getting confused on some of those smaller clouds as being light rainfall falling to the ground. But in general, this is a very strong view of what we can see going on all throughout the area. Lawrence was another area that saw a ton of rainfall out there west on I-70 there. Possible they start to get a couple sprinkles here shortly, and that's going to be the name of the game through the rest of your Thursday, and something that we continue to monitor here with you all throughout your day. So future radar, here's what we're seeing looking out from now. And what you'll notice is that for the vast majority of us, those rain chances wrap up here pretty soon in the next hour or two, which is a good thing. So we can see it's doing a great job of picking up on that heavy rain in our southernmost counties. So I have a good, strong feeling about this particular model in the numbers and the data that it's showing us here about what we could see for the rest of the day. So moving through your 10 o'clock hour, we can see, if I can get this to load, then that heavier downpour and that stronger rain activity is going to be on this downward slide, as of what we've seen over the past 3-4 hours or so. So that's a positive trend that we are seeing in this rainfall, but still earlier this morning it left behind a ton of rain that we will still need to deal with, and those associated flooding concerns that we'll need to deal with through the rest of your Thursday. But it's possible this afternoon that some of us find a bit more rain, especially south of I-70. We can see that there, but let me take you even further into the overnight. So this is our newest version of forecast radar, and what it's breaking down for us is as we go past midnight, those clouds lock in, indicating that we still have enough moisture in our air to create some rainfall. Then we can start to find how some lighter showers and even isolated heavier downpours are possible in the very early morning hours of your Friday. That's mostly south of I-70 again, but look how they crawl closer and closer to downtown and those immediate metro areas where we could start to find more rainfall. It's not going to be anything like what we saw this morning in terms of how widespread or how heavy that rainfall was. The good news here is that our atmosphere is now more worked over. It won't have quite as many ingredients as we had to start off this morning with that created that very heavy rainfall event, but it's still possible that through Friday sunrise and even through that morning commute that we find a couple more spotty showers in there that, yet again, even if it's not quite as much rain as we saw today, or it won't even be nearly as much rain as we saw today, any further moisture and rain that we put down on our soils and roadways is simply not going to help the ongoing flooding concerns that we are seeing, especially in downtown. So keep that in mind. Friday morning and afternoon, you may encounter a couple spotty showers. Overall, we're going to keep that rain chance significantly lower than today's at a 30% for your Friday. Walking you through the rest of your Thursday morning though, so bringing that back 24 hours till now, taking a live look outside, we can see how soggy it looks out there, how it's still pretty gloomy even though it's not actively raining. Though that first 4 and 5 weather day is going to stay intact even past that rain chance dropping off the board, because those flooding concerns will still be going on, and it will still be something that we're dealing with likely at least by the time that you're headed home from work or wherever your afternoon and evening plans take you. So rule of thumb when we have flooding concerns is if you encounter water on the roadways or even just on the sidewalks or in your backyard, if you have a creek or a riverbed that's maybe close by in your neighborhood and it's overflowing and starting to have flooding concerns outside of its banks and outside of where that water typically is, know that you should not be going through that water. You should not be getting in the water, driving through it in a car, walking through it on foot, even if it looks shallow, even if you see it and you're like, I know this road, I know that there's no way it can be that deep. It can be hard to tell how fast that water is actually moving, and that's why flooding can be so dangerous. So really, we need to just be avoiding accumulating water on roadways, sidewalks, driveways, backyards, things like that, because of the nature of what floodwaters can do. Speaking of, earlier this morning, meteorologist Melissa Meter was in and she was breaking down some of the preliminary rainfall totals that we had found to start off our day. Now, this was going right up just past sunrise. Some of us already tapping into over 6 inches of rain. That's for Independence, for Shawnee, for KCK. Also over in Lawrence, so way west of where that flash flood warning was issued, they were still experiencing and receiving a ton of rainfall too. So this has been a pretty widespread event, and I can actually go back hours and hours on our live radar. If you did sleep through it, which it was very rumbly and very flashy, so I would be surprised, this is what you missed. We can go back in time over the past 6 hours is what that's going to show you there, how widespread of heavy rainfall and how long it lasted. This is a snapshot from 4 in the morning going all the way to 8:30. So over 4 hours downtown was experiencing repetitive rounds of heavy rain. That's why that flash flood warning was in place, and that flood warning is still in place too. So that the difference with that is that we're not actively seeing any rain fall on the area, but it could be upgraded back if we do start to see rain returning to this general area that got the heaviest of rainfall. Speaking of, let's go to radar estimated rainfall so you can really see what I mean about this being the bullseye for where the heaviest of rain did accumulate. You can see right there through downtown, down towards Leawood, down through Olathe, Spring Hill, catching that southern tip of this swath of very high rainfall totals, and ones that are going to go into the record books. We still need to sift through that data, and we'll keep you posted on that through the rest of the day, and especially later in our First Warn 5 weather show at 6:30 this evening. But know that this day and this amount of rainfall is going to go into the record books, and we already had that yesterday with just a mere 2 inches of rain. So when our radar is estimating rainfall totals around 8 inches, you can expect that this is going to be a significant day in weather history for KCK and KCMO, especially because that blob of heavier rainfall and estimated rainfall total stretches all the way east of downtown down along I-70. So this is a situation, again, I've said it a couple times, but one that we are actively monitoring and are going to keep you informed on through the rest of the day, and monitoring road conditions. We have crews out there looking and figuring out what the situation is, what you need to know in terms of those road conditions as well. So as we get you a look at that Security Bank 7-day forecast, there's a couple things that I want you to take home from this. First, it's the fact that today is the First Warn 5 weather day. In case you missed it, this situation is ongoing. It's one we're still monitoring because rain chances are not completely done for the day, and they're not even completely done for the week. It's possible we find some heavier downpours very early on your Friday morning, about the same time frame as today, but not as widespread, not as intense, and we look to keep that activity sub-severe tomorrow. So not looking at severe weather concerns tomorrow, but just rainfall and isolated downpours that maybe on a regular day we wouldn't think twice about. But since we have so much rain that fell out there today, anything we add to it could start to reopen some problems, reopen some can of worms in terms of that rainfall accumulation and how it ponds up on sidewalks, roadways, creeks, rivers, things of that nature. Saturday and Sunday, we're keeping a very spotty rain chance in there before we wipe it off the board completely. What happens next week, though, is something that we are keeping a close eye on because it's going to be a significant change from what we find today. Afternoon high today, 83 degrees. Add 10 degrees to that, that's your Saturday afternoon high. 93, 94 Sunday, 95 Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday in the mid to upper 90s, feeling well into the triple digits, already keeping a close eye on that as a significant heat wave that has a decently high chance of pushing through next week. We're starting to get the atmospheric signals that that's going to be something that we deal with here in about 3-4 days from now. So as this afternoon brings slightly cooler temperatures, especially when we compare it to what we found yesterday, know that we are going to start to crank up those temperatures here shortly. It will feel like summer again as early as tomorrow. reaching right around that average high in the upper 80s for this time of year. But then adding to that, as we head into our climatologically speaking hottest time of year, those temperatures are really going to match that through your 7-day forecast there that we can see. Beyond that, sunshine next week, again, taking those rain chances off the board. We'll monitor that and let you know if that does change, but at this time we're looking to have a transition between cooler and wetter and hotter and drier as we head into that last full week of July. So as always, we will keep you updated. Continue to stay tuned in today. Stay diligent out there on the roads too. Road conditions still struggling with all of that rain that we found earlier this morning. So make sure you stay safe out there and stay tuned in with us. We'll keep you updated every step of the way.
Welcome back into the live desk. I am Janae Hancock here with Taylor Johnson. Taylor, we want to jump straight into it. Taking a look at this video right here on your screen, we are continuing our severe weather coverage on this first warned weather day. After flash flooding hit our area overnight, we will have another look at your forecast here shortly, but we do want to start off with video that you are seeing right here on your screen. Taylor, did this wake you up overnight?
It did. It woke me up a couple of times, and as you know, I have to get up early in the middle of the night to come to work, and I shared with you that it was so loud that I had to put AirPods in and turn on like sleeping music so that I could be able to get back to sleep in order to get here. And we could talk a little bit later, but my commute coming in was a little rough as well.
Not the best,
yeah, but we're here and we're safe and everything is coming together.
And I think that is the good news, is that we have not heard of any significant injuries. We're taking a look at this video coming in from Independence, from Dana, and moving along to this video. This was from earlier this morning, Taylor.
Yes. So as you can see, this was I-70 westbound at Broadway. Several stalled vehicles, lots of ponding that was causing some serious issues. And then that looks like Brush Creek down at the Country Club Plaza. And even on a day where there's heavy rains, it gets pretty intense. This is I-435 southbound at 23rd Street, which is still closed right now. There were several vehicles that were submerged under the water. It was pretty shocking to see. And I know that we have Nathan, who's going to be out there on the ground at that scene where those cars were submerged. He was out there for a good part of our newscast this morning. Nathan, we still see the waters are pretty high over there.
Oh boy, Taylor, I know that at this point in time you're probably on your third, maybe fourth cup of coffee. You were up early. We were tracking this storm throughout the entire morning. And yeah, you had mentioned 23rd Street right over by I-435. That's right where we are here right now. And as you can see, there's still plenty of water. There's still plenty of flooding in this area. You can even see those vehicles that we were showing earlier this morning still completely submerged underwater. Can't even see the tires in a couple of these sedans. We have noticed that this water has receded and drained a little bit, which is the good news. Also, the good news, as you can see, the sun is out. We're not experiencing any rain. We haven't seen any of those raindrops or anything like that in the last, 2 hours or so. So that's the good news. I also spoke with the Jackson County Sheriff's Department and Jackson County Sheriff's Office, and they said that they are not reporting any injuries, no reports of injuries at this point in time. That's the good news. Sun is out, but unfortunately there are several drivers that were trying to come through this area earlier this morning, got themselves stuck in this standing water, which is just another reminder. Even if you're driving right now, you say, okay, it hasn't rained in a couple hours, I can get through this water. I'll be the first to tell you that's probably a poor idea. You have no idea what's underneath. Maybe if you have kids at home and they want to go play in something like this, go run around in the water, also don't recommend that. Same reason, you have no idea what's underneath any of this standing water. So please stay safe and be aware that there are areas like this still in the metro.
And Nathan, we also talked about how it looked like there were power outages over in that area too. I know you say, not to be in this water because you don't know what's in there. There's possibilities people could maybe run into, live wires or things like that. So it could be a very dangerous situation.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you can see, too, there are lights here that aren't operating at this point in time. I don't know how widespread the power outages are in this area, but I know specifically where we're standing right here, there is no power in this area. And that's a great reminder, too, Taylor, especially when you're on some of these major roadways like a 23rd Street or anything like that. Those wires could still be active. It's incredibly dangerous to go towards that water. So please just be careful. I know that a lot of people like to be daredevils during this type of situation. I just really would rather you not. Give it a couple hours, give it a few hours, let all this water kind of deteriorate, let all this water drain, and then we can move on our way.
All right. Been all over the roads this morning, Nathan. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah, some great tips.
Oh, yeah.
And you know what? We will take a look at the Evergy outage map here in a bit, but we know your coverage out there, Nathan, will continue during our noon newscast. Again, thank you so much for joining us. Alrighty, Taylor, just taking a look at that live shot and then the videos and the photos that we are receiving here into the KCTV5 newsroom. I do want to go to our website, kctv5.com, where several of you have been sending in photos and videos of what you are seeing right outside your window, maybe on the roads. And
Look at that lightning.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking a little bit, Taylor. I mean, as we scroll down, there are some photos that I have seen. Let's see here. Or some videos. Yeah. There's one right here coming in from Olathe.
And even with that lightning, we were talking about this morning. When it's overnight, you can't really see. Sometimes all the light that people had was that lightning that was flashing.
Yeah. And when I say that it is heartbreaking, I'm also speaking to just the damage that many families woke up to early this morning because of what happened overnight. And I know KCTV5's Morgan Rydell, during our morning show, she actually spoke to a family to talk about their damage and walk through their home. We do want to turn to her now with what she saw and what they had to say.
Yeah, we've been giving those flash flood warnings. I know they hit all of our phones, but I'm going to show you just how impactful this was today. This creek here, it is flowing, but you can see it's below its banks right now. That has not been the case all morning long, even throughout the night while everyone else was sleeping. This creek here overflowed by numerous feet. It entered this home here. You can see those spots where the water broke out the garage door here, and there is so much water inside. There's even a line of water in there. I'm going to introduce you to the family here, Tamika, the mother. I'm going to first have you talk to me a little bit about just kind of what happened here this morning.
I was at work, and I came back home because the kids said that the water is getting to a certain line. I came home, stayed home for a few hours, and I figured I'd go back to work. Got a phone call from my daughter, Janae, my granddaughter screaming, saying that there's water coming into the house, and they were all pitching in, trying to, I guess, throw things on the door. And when I got home, it was worse than I ever imagined. It was nothing that they can do.
I'm going to move over so Edwin can go inside and just kind of show everyone what exactly you're talking about. But I'm going to stay here and talk with you guys a little bit. Just kind of some of those things that you noticed when you first walked in. Just what stood out to you?
So basically the whole backyard was underwater, at least 15 to 20 feet worth of water. And as it came in, it came through the garage. It was coming through the back door, then it came through the garage area. And as it was downstairs, my daughter and my dog and my granddaughter was downstairs. My dog almost got swept away. My daughter picked my dog up and had to lift him up while she's underwater. As you can see, this is like maybe 3-4 feet worth of water.
This is that water line that she's talking about. This is how this water line here, this is how high it went this morning. Can you just tell me a little bit about the things you guys found once you came in here?
As you can see, what we did was we went and walked around the house to make sure everything was fine. And my daughter pointed out that there was a fish down here. We all went to investigate, and my son can tell you the rest of the story of what happened.
I'm going to move over here. Yeah, can you tell me a little bit about just kind of your experience through all this morning?
Yeah, my daughter woke me up. She told me that, there was some flooding going on. I thought it really wasn't a big deal. I looked outside, and the creek was overflowing. Within 10 minutes, the whole backyard was full of water. Our pool, our trampoline, gone. Completely gone. So that creek turned into a lake. There was a whole lake in the backyard. You couldn't even stand in the backyard. And we noticed that when we went across the street, there was a big crater. It looked like someone had just bombed over there. However, that was actually a man-made lake over there, and it had overflowed, and all that water came flowing into our backyards. And now we have to deal with and pick up the pieces.
Yeah, you were telling me just how fast this happened. What time was that at? And how long did it take till water was filling the house?
Yeah, I think I woke up at around 3 o'clock. We started looking outside for about 10 minutes, but the next 10 minutes it drastically changed pretty quick. And, I've been living in Kansas City for 29 years, and I've never seen anything like that. So it kind of reminded me of kind of the things that are happening in Florida and make me think about the climate changes that are happening.
And it was a really scary moment. I know you mentioned your daughter, the dog was here, your sister. Can you just tell me a little bit about just how important it is that everyone is safe this morning?
I'm extremely happy that everyone is safe. It was kind of hard to keep everyone calm. However, I'm super grateful that God kept us and he kept us safe, and it didn't get any worse than it did. But it honestly is a sight that we've never seen before, and hope to never see again.
Just heartbreaking. It's hard to even see in person. I had no idea what we were coming into this morning, but just seeing beds that floated through their bedroom, this is just awful to see. Have you even started to think about what you're going to do once the sun comes up?
So far, we've been trying to salvage whatever we can at this moment. I believe most of my granddaughter, who is 9 years old, and my son is 29. All of their clothes are ruined. So he has to go to work this morning. He doesn't have even clothes to even go to work this morning. So we're just trying to figure out how can we live for today. We're grateful that we're all alive, we're well, and our animals are okay. And that's what we were more worried about, our pets and our kids. Now it's just trying to figure out, where do we go from here? How do we clean up and go back to normal?
To see this in real time this morning was just very shocking. Morgan Rydell had caught them just as they had pulled up in their neighborhood just by happenstance there, and it was just very shocking to see. But one thing that the son had mentioned is that he's been in Kansas City almost 30 years and has never seen anything like this. We actually had a police officer who said the same about the flooding that was seen in the city, that they hadn't seen anything. I want to say it might have been in relation to Brush Creek since 2017. So this has been pretty intense and very, very serious.
Yeah, and you touch on the fact that, seeing this in real time, I know I woke up to it and turning on my TV after hearing just the rain pouring overnight and the high winds. But to wake up to that and see it on my television, it just also just made me take a moment and say, I'm grateful
that
I didn't have to wake up to seeing that inside of my home, just waking up to seeing it on my television. But again, just wishing and sending our best to so many who are having to deal with that severe damage. And then also, I think it speaks volumes that they are very grateful right now that they have their pets, they have their loved ones. And the mother also compared it to what we have seen in Texas within the past week. And she said, he doesn't have clothes to go to work. And like you said, they've never seen anything like this before. But at the same time, at least they're still able to hug one another, and they're not looking for their loved ones or their animals. So that's something that's very huge. And I think something that they are very grateful for this morning.
Yes, they do have a GoFundMe. I just remembered that they had created it right before the end of our newscast. So hopefully at some point we can find that and share it with everyone, because we did get a tip that someone was looking to help who saw that story this morning. So that is available.
So we will be sure to keep you all posted on their story. But for right now, we do want to head over to the Evergy map and take a look at the outages. So far, you can see the storm update alert Thursday as far as 8 a.m. But we do want to take a look. It looks like there are 520 active outages impacting around more than 8,000 customers. So we will keep you posted on this. We'll continue to follow the latest. Right now, we are going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we will be joined by meteorologist Mike Nico. Welcome back into the live desk on this first Warn 5 weather day. We are now joined by meteorologist Mike Nico. Good morning, Mike. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, considering how was everybody else doing is really one of my concerns. Especially some people had trouble getting to work. Some people couldn't even get to work. Some people that had flooded homes. I mean, what a mess.
And we do want to talk about the mess that Taylor Johnson had to go through here in a moment. But right now, we do want to also give you an update from the Kansas City Fire Department. They said that they have conducted 23 high water rescues. That's from overnight into early this morning of people trapped in their cars. So again, they are just reminding you that if you to do not drive in water covering the roadways, and also if you are trapped, please call 911. But I think the term that we always hear during this time is turn around, do not drown. Right? So definitely keep that in mind. Those tips, we always hear it. We heard it as a child, but very important on days like today. And Taylor, I do want you to touch on just what you had to go through coming into work.
And Mike, this probably goes into when you're going to talk about the record rainfall and things like that. I know Shawnee was one of the areas that saw one of the higher numbers of rainfall in that area, and so that's where I come from. So I headed out around about 3:15 this morning, and at the end of the driveway, the water was ponding already. So as I was trying to walk through it, and it was pretty high, like almost to my ankle. It took the shoes off my feet. So I had to grab those, and then I got in the car. So as I was driving on Shawnee Mission Parkway East, I noticed that two police cars were blocking the intersection by Goddard Road, I believe it's called. And so our storm tracker actually went that direction earlier, and they almost got swept because the water there was so intense. In terms of turning around, don't drown, try to find an alternative route. There's kind of a service road on the side where there's some fast food restaurants and a car wash and a bank. Tried to go that way, but then the water from the main roads were coming onto that service road. So it was starting to get a little scary, I'm going to be honest with you guys. And to the point where I thought I was going to have to call for help. But thankfully, if I waited any longer, I probably would have gotten stuck because I have a sedan. You know, it's not made for that. And honestly, a lot of our cars are not made for this, because as Janae was talking about those water rescues, where Nathan was this morning and where we just saw him off of I-435, they had to rescue people from that. That was at least 5 cars that were stuck. North and southbound I-35 at Lamar Avenue, those lanes were closed for a long time because there were 2 vehicles that were submerged that people had to be rescued from. So it was scary for a lot of people. Even here on I-70 westbound at Broadway, those were issues that were happening there as well on the interstate. So you know, we're so thankful for our first responders. But I've also heard that when you are in high waters and you need help, to not get out of the car, to stay inside your vehicle. It might seem like the right thing to do to get out, but that's how you could end up getting swept away.
That water gets you. You can't compress water. So when water hits you, you're getting the full force of it. It's not like if a sponge hits you, it compresses, it loses its energy. Once water hits you, that's the full force of it. And depending on how fast it's moving and how deep it is, it's exponentially stronger and can do more damage, as we saw out of Texas, the way it swept away those 50 to 75, 100-year-old trees. The power of water, I think for a lot of people, I wouldn't say they don't respect it, they just don't understand it. They haven't dealt with it before. Now, we know all the low-lying areas that normally flood, but as you mentioned, once those flooded, this moved out into other areas that maybe don't necessarily flood. But the great thing about living in Kansas City is there's like 10 ways to get somewhere. So you can always find a safer route, which goes back to if you cannot see the road through the water, that's when you turn around and you find an alternate route.
You know what, guys? Before we go into this conversation even more, we do have KCTV5's Grace Smith as we talk about Kansas specifically, especially with your experience, Taylor, early this morning. We do want to turn to her now. She is in Olathe. Grace, what are you seeing and what are you hearing from people in that area?
Hey Janae, yeah, we are at Waterworks Park in Olathe. We just got here about 20 minutes ago and immediately just started talking to these residents here. I want to show you that very clear line of dirt. That is where these residents say this water went up to. So you can see all of this, they tell me, was under water. Just, it's hard to believe, but they said thankfully it did recede quickly. But I want to show you, I talked to this man right here, and he said that when he woke up at about 5 a.m., he got the alerts and he went out and just saw all of this was like the lake, pretty much. So he thought that this lake over here was overflowing. But then he realized that the water was stopping at this drain right here, and the water wasn't going above that drain. So then he realized, oh, the drains are overflowing. And that is kind of what these residents experienced. And as you can see, all of these people, they are just cleaning out their basements, their garages, as these 4 homes here were severely impacted. I'm told the worst. They got it the worst. A lot of them, they tell us that they just lost pretty much everything in their basements, everything in their garages. They didn't necessarily want to talk on camera right now. As you can see that they are hard at work. They have emergency crews here trying to clean this up, as you know, this water just came through and destroyed many people's basements. And there's actually a boat on the other side. I don't know if you can see it. And the neighbor that we spoke to, he said that he could actually see the boat and it looked like it was on water. So the water had picked up the boat that was in this person's driveway. So that just kind of gives you a visual of what this street looked like. It was basically its own lake. So right now these residents, they're just trying to clean up, get everything out that they can save, but a lot of them are frustrated. Many of them said that they didn't have flood insurance. So that's something that they're constantly on the phone right now, I'm seeing, just trying to figure out what to do next, as water just filled this entire street here at Curtis Street in Sheridan by Waterworks Park. So just hard to imagine, as you know, the water has receded back. And he said that it took about 4 hours to recede. So I mean, water can do a lot of damage in that time, and we're clearly seeing the pieces of that, and residents trying to clean up after this water just destroyed their basements and garages. Janae.
Yeah. Grace Smith out in Olathe. Grace, we are going to let you get to it and talk to some more neighbors. We appreciate your coverage. Guys, I do want to touch on this as well. Grace talked about, some residents not having insurance, and then they are now starting to repair the damage. We have spoken to the Better Business Bureau multiple times, and during times like this, they always say, watch out for storm chasers. And, there are multiple definitions for that, but specifically, they are talking about the people that come around looking for vulnerable people who are dealing with damage, trying to get repairs, and they're looking to take advantage of you. So you definitely want to make sure you are just not giving your information and money out to just anyone that is willing to help.
Mm-hmm. And another thing that she talked about that stood out to me was the drainage situation. I know if certain infrastructure can't handle this type of rain, that it can get really bad.
Yeah, when you have these type of floods, I mean, this is a very rare occasion. I mean, it's so rare that it's only the 12th time in 137 years we've had 2 days consecutive with 2-inch rainfalls. And yesterday was a record. Today's probably not going to be a record, but it's pretty close.
Right.
But our infrastructure is not made for this type of an event, especially over possibly a 2-day period, or if you condense it down to the number of hours, how much rain we received. 8 inches of rain in some places in 8 hours, 6 hours. Our infrastructure, when it was put in decades ago, it was a different atmosphere back then. It was a different weather pattern. We didn't deal with these flooding events that we're seeing so much this summer. Not only here, we just happen to be the latest victim, but as we've talked about in Texas, in North Carolina, in New York, where the subways were flooded, where they were telling people to get out of their basements if they live in New York because the flooding was coming. Those people that have basement apartments. We're seeing that so much this year because our infrastructure was put in at a different time when the weather wasn't this volatile.
Right. Yeah, it's a lot to consider. We were listening to the family whose basement was destroyed this morning, and the son talked about climate change and how this is really concerning him as it relates to that, just seeing how the rain really impacted their life. And what you were saying, you know, the weather pattern has changed so much over the years.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of us having the weather show, because we can go in more in depth about those things. And I did that last week. It's called PWATS. It's precipitable water. If you take a column of the atmosphere from the ground up to where airplanes fly, that's where our weather happens. The PWATS, or the precipitable water, has been at 100% or up to 200% of average. That's a lot of water in the air. And the warmer the air is, the more water it can hold, and that's why we're seeing these amounts of rainfall that are record-setting, and also are squeezing out, you know, flooding like this. So the warmer the water, the warmer the air is, the more water it can hold. It's just that simple. And we don't talk about climate change a lot here in Kansas City because we really aren't affected by it until something like this happens. And can you make a direct lineage between this event and climate change? You could say that the air being hotter and the amount of moisture being double what it should normally be could be a part of it. But there were other factors also. There were several other factors. There were a couple of boundaries that came together right on top of us that flared up these storms, but then kept them going because there was no upper level wind to push them very fast. So there's more than that. But yes, climate change is something that we probably need, we need to start talking about. I mean, most people know I lived in California before coming back here to Kansas City, and it's hit out there so much harder than here. And that's why they're on the leading edge of it, but they're dealing with it. Now we're starting to see some of the repercussions here where events are more enhanced. They're much stronger than what we used to. And we're having issues with our computer models keeping up with the climate change with these abnormally high or unusual conditions. The weather models, a lot of what they do, especially a lot of the learning models now, the AI models, is they're going back and looking at past events. We had these same conditions or possibly similar conditions. What was the result? Well, we're seeing that they try to go back and find these conditions. They can't find them because these are conditions we've never experienced before. So the models are having trouble. And something that Stevie and I were talking about, something that just popped in my head, is if the atmosphere is warm from top to bottom, we're less likely to have hail. So if you have hail, you're taking a lot of that rain and you're turning it into a single piece of ice. That when it falls, it sits there and it can pile up and usually doesn't cause damage if it's small enough. It could cause damage to cars and other things. But it is taking a lot of the water, turning it from a liquid into a solid, and it's letting it sit on the ground and slowly melt. As opposed to if it's too warm for hail, which it was last night, all of that water remains liquid and it all falls, and it falls too quickly, and this is what you have. If we would have had some hail last night, the rainfall totals would have been lower.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But because we didn't have hail, the rainfall totals were higher, and that's a byproduct of the atmosphere. Yesterday was our warmest day this year. It was 94 degrees. And we had dew points in the mid-70s, and that is tropical. And we had tropical storms.
This is also so interesting. All that just goes into creating these situations scientifically.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And I know climate change is a hot button. It's a third rail, if you will. But when you have events like this, it just puts it to the forefront. And we've had so many this summer that you can't ignore it anymore, or you can't say that there's not something going on.
Right. Especially when you see events like in Texas, and then you see this coming just the following week. Now, as we take a look at this video here on our screen, Mike, I also want to take a look at the rainfall totals and pull that up as well, so you can explain it a little bit better for us as to what we saw today.
Yeah, and this is just at the airport. We've had rainfall amounts that were much heavier elsewhere. So what I threw this together. Yesterday we had a record rainfall, and you can see it doubled the rainfall record set many years ago. 1.35, and we were at almost 2.8. So far today we've had 2 inches, and the record is 2.4. Now, thankfully this event is definitely unwinding. There is some light rain still out there, but the light rain that falls now, it's not going to cause any more problems. It's not going to fall fast enough. It's not going to be heavy enough. The flash flooding is over. What we're dealing with right now is the secondary areas where once the flash flood recedes, it recedes into the creeks. It recedes into the rivers. That's what's flooding now. And that's what's going to continue to flood through possibly Saturday morning barring any other rain that's going to fall. And there's a small chance tomorrow, and there's a small chance Saturday, but I don't think it's going to hurt it. But here you go, back to back, 2-inch daily rainfalls. It's only happened 12 times in 137 years. So that gives you an idea of it happens less than 10% of the time.
Right.
And so this was an unusual record-setting event.
I have a question. So, sometimes we talk about how maybe it hasn't rained or we've been seeing a dry spell. So if it rains back-to-back like this, 2 inches to this extent, does that become beneficial or not?
Much of it did soak in, but then once it got to saturation, it all ran off. So it was beneficial, yes, but then it was too much.
Yeah.
And then it ran off and caused the flooding. Yeah, there were some places that were very dry. I live in southern Johnson County, or southern Overland Park, if you will, and it was super dry. Super dry there. It hadn't rained there in, it seemed like, weeks. And so we needed it. And you didn't see a lot of flooding down there, but we also didn't see the heaviest of the rain because 5 miles to my north, 5 miles to my west, so Olathe and Lenexa, and that's where we saw a lot of the flooding because that's where the storms just happened to set up. So we were lucky that we could absorb the rain and we didn't receive as much rain. So yes, it was beneficial, but then it turned and became detrimental.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm glad that things were fine for the most part in your neck of the woods.
Yeah, I am very blessed about that. And I feel so bad for other people because I've been out and have talked to people that have gone through tornadoes and flooding, and it turns your life upside down, not just for a day, not for a week, but it could be months. And if the damage is catastrophic enough, it could be a year.
Yeah, absolutely.
And these people that don't have flood insurance, and that's one of the things I think we always have to talk about is a while ago insurance companies just kind of quietly removed that from your overall coverage and made it something, an add-on, if you will, kind of like earthquake insurance and other things. And so I think now is a good time for everybody to go back and look at their coverage and make sure possibly that they have flooding or natural disaster events. Our homeowners insurance, one of the few things that's more expensive here than other places I lived, it's more expensive because we go through these Mother Nature or natural disasters. Mainly, it's usually hail. That's why it is. But this time,
my car got damaged by hail back in Omaha, actually. So last night I was getting kind of nervous because the way I was hearing the rain fall on the roof, and I don't have a covered parking garage right now. I was like, oh my gosh, I hope it's not hailing again, and because my car is paid for and I'm putting my business out there a little bit, my insurance is not comprehensive. So, I couldn't just take it and pay the deductible and get it fixed. And it's very expensive to get the dents out of your car.
Yes.
Hell is never fun. You know what, guys? New developments will continue to come into the KCTV5 newsroom. We just received this photo here on our website, kctv5.com, about an hour ago. This is coming in from Lisa in Gardner. You can see that tree uprooted in her yard. I believe this is her front yard. We do have a crew. From my understanding, we are seeing a lot of situations like this in Gardner. So we do have a crew heading that way, Ryan Hennessy with Alex Love. And so we'll have coverage throughout our newscast today live from Gardner. But I just wanted to add that into our coverage as well.
Yeah.
I think we were lucky in that respect that a lot of the saturation came after the winds. Or we would see more like that because once the ground's saturated, the root system loses its footing, almost kind of like you did this morning getting out to your car. It's almost the same concept.
Yeah.
They lose their footing, they topple over. We do have some reports of wind damage, but by and large, it's the flooding that's been the main story, and the flooding came after the winds. And you were talking about how you were hearing the drops that sound like hail. It probably was hail at one time that melted, and that's where you get those big, fat, heavy drops. That was previously hail that melted, and it becomes those big, heavy drops that almost sound like hail.
Yeah. I was a little worried. I was a little concerned, but it turned out to be okay. So that's
that's one of the things we know. My wife was doing the same thing. It's like, should we bring the cars in? Should we cover the cars?
Right.
I'm like, it's going to be all rain, honey. It's going to be a lot of rain. There's not going to be any hail out of this. It's just too warm.
Well, she's lucky to be married to a meteorologist.
I know.
Sometimes it helps. Sometimes.
I love it. Well, again, for our viewers who are just now joining us, we do know that the Kansas City Fire Department has conducted 23 high water rescues. Of course, we will continue to keep you all posted on that number if it happens to go up. But we also know, I know what woke me up this morning, guys, is the flash flood warning alerts. Yes. Oh my gosh, I had multiple coming through on my phone and my work phone as well. Didn't wake my dog up, but it woke me up. But I know that KCTV5's Morgan Rydell, she also spoke to the family early this morning, the family that we just heard her speak to, about those alerts and what they had to say. And they said that they believe it came just a little bit too late. So we do want to take a listen into what they have to say.
And I know when, we've been getting those flash flood warnings all morning. When we wrapped up our last interview, we got one just seconds after that wrapped up. And it was a little bit kind of scary to hear just because of what happened here this morning. Can you talk to me about the emotions y'all felt in that moment hearing the flash flood warning just maybe 30 minutes ago?
I know that I was watching the news when Texas got hit and seeing how devastated those families were. And I said a prayer. I was laying in my bed and saying, I don't know how I would get through my day if I lost my children throughout that. So my heart goes out to everyone who was suffering behind everything that had happened. And then I wake up to this and I'm like, I see what they were going through. Like ours wasn't as bad as theirs. And I still have to say thank you, thank you because, they're going through it to this day. And their families, some of their families are not here and they're still searching for them. So when we first got the warning, my daughter said that the warning came after the basement was flooded. So my heart goes out to them because they were saying that they got it, no warning, but our warning came late. We didn't hear any sirens. I mean, it was like they didn't have enough time to warn. If I got an alert before, I can at least tell them, hey guys, take cover, go upstairs. I had them downstairs throwing blankets while I was at work on the door. And they could have been washed away or flooded downstairs. And, I mean, the warnings are very important. I mean, we've got to get serious about making sure that people are well informed, way in advance.
And I know when, we've been...
So I still have mine pulled up, the notifications. So I've received 3 this morning. I got the first one at 3:17 a.m. For a flash flood warning until 4:45. Then received another one about 15 minutes later, which extended the time.
Right.
And then received another one just after 6 where they extended the time again till almost 9 o'clock this morning. So, got at least 3 emergency alerts, but it's, I'm really sorry that the family wasn't able to get one before the water started to come into their home.
Yeah, that is very unfortunate. It's just heartbreaking. I know also when Morgan was talking to the family, they were showing her photos of how it used to look before the overnight floods came through, and they had a trampoline, I believe. They also had a pool, and I think those photos were from the 4th of July. So it's just heartbreaking. And to say that, we put our blood, sweat, and tears into this home, and just adding love and so much into it, and now it's just been literally swept away. But again, the good news there is that they're all safe, they're all okay, and their animals are okay and accounted for. So just something we'll continue to follow. As far as that family is concerned, I know you said that they also have a GoFundMe, and they are asking for donations right now to really kind of build from the ground up again.
Yeah, and with situations like this, I feel like we've talked about this with Texas as well. With natural disasters, it's just out of our control. It's only but so much that you can do. And just hearing her talk about how they were trying to use blankets, just trying to do whatever they could to stop it. And as Mike was saying, how powerful water can be, sometimes it just ends up out of our hands.
And you know what? I have to bring this back to a conversation I had with my grandmother last week, because she is in Texas where those floods happened. And she said, with fire and water, you just can't really prepare for it.
Yeah.
And going back to what meteorologist Mike Nico said, is that it is powerful. So this is just a reminder, but just an unfortunate reminder. A lot of people waking up to that damage and really just trying to repair everything throughout the day today with the light, because I know last night you couldn't see a lot. You just knew that the damage was there. Alrighty, our coverage will continue here at the live desk. We'll be right back after this break.